Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for that experience, and thank Mike and Nicole for doing this with me. That has been a decade of working on words and working on the journey from impossible to possible, which is the journey of human embodiment. The impossible is rarely a lack of potential. More often, it's a fragmented system that no longer knows how to actually hold possibility. The roots determine the reality. When we look at the actual human system in this path, most people try to change outcomes without changing the deeper patterns creating the outcomes. But every reality is being generated from the roots. Emotional roots, relational roots, nervous system roots, spiritual roots, mental roots, and behavioral roots. If the roots remain fragmented, then the reality continues repeating the patterns and remains fragmented. But when the roots change, the reality reorganizes itself accordingly. The human system, we are made of layers. Oftentimes we hear body, mind, and soul, but in my personal experience, I have found more layers. There is the spiritual body, the astral body, the mental body, the emotional body, the nervous system, and then the physical body. Each layer affects the others. When they're fragmented, life feels impossible. When they begin communicating coherently, that's when the possibility returns. Fragmentation, what that actually is and what it looks like. Spirit saying expand. The mind says it isn't safe. The emotional body, I want to take this away. The emotional say, what if I get hurt again? The nervous system says, danger. And then the physical body responds with exhaustion, shutdown, anxiety, tension, or collapse. The issue is rarely lack of desire. It's the internal contradiction between all of the bodies. And so everything comes back to patterns. These patterns can be explored. The deeper that I go into this work, the more I realize everything is a pattern. We have patterns of behavior, patterns in communication, patterns in emotional responses, patterns in relationships, patterns in the nervous system, and patterns in the structures that we build our lives upon. What I've truly been studying through the death and the rebirth and the collapse and reconstruction is the architect of the patterns themselves. The patterns reveal everything. So the whole goal is change the pattern interruption. When we try to change the outcome without the pattern, we can't do it. Most people just try to change the outcome. But when we update the pattern, the body responds differently. The mind interprets differently. The communication shifts. The relationships evolve, and the possibilities expand. Coherence returns naturally, and we start feeling safe in our bodies and in our realities again. Partial healing is not wholeness. Wholeness requires each of these layers. Many approaches focus on one part of the human experience, the body, mind, and spirit, the emotion, or the behavior. But if we just heal one layer while ignoring the others, the fragmentation remains underneath the surface. A person can be spiritually connected, but emotionally fragmented. We can be mentally aware and completely physically disconnected. We can successful externally while internally be completely dysregulated and dysfunctional. Awareness is not embodiment. Awareness alone will not transform your reality. Insight alone does not transform. Embodied action does. A person can understand trauma, recognize patterns, speak spiritual language, have an intellectual understanding of healing, and still remain unchanged. It doesn't matter what we understand. Embodiment happens when the awareness becomes lived behavior. when communication changes, when relationships change, when boundaries change, when presence changes, integrity becomes visible, and connection to divine intelligence, it becomes something that we're no longer seeking, it just is. And vision beyond current circumstances unlock. That's when the possibility starts coming in. The spiritual body is the layer where possibility becomes. Before this is the internal part. This is the vision. This is the what is possible, where we go from is it even a thing to an awareness that it is even a new possibility. From the spiritual body, we move into the astral body. Once we realize it's possible, this is where the imagination sets in, and we actually get to imagine it. What would that be like? This is where the dreams come in, the symbolism, the archetypes, the energetic resonance. This is where possibility first becomes the story, the fairy tale. But imagination without grounding becomes escapism. The imagination must eventually become embodiment. And so how does that happen? We then go into the mental body. The mental body is what creates. That's where our beliefs come from, our narratives, our personality, our perception, identity. Our beliefs become our identity. Our beliefs become our reality. This layer is what determines what is believable. Most people are not limited by their reality. They're limited by the stories that they continuously tell them about their reality. The mind often mistakes familiarity with truth. Just because it's a story we understand doesn't mean it's the truth. And so we have to look at the interpreter of our reality. And then the next layer that we get to go to is the emotional body. The emotional body is where the body stores grief, joy, fear, love, shame, longing, and emotional memory. Everything is trapped in memory. Our body remembers everything. Every emotion we suppressed, every emotion we didn't allow ourselves to express is here. It's in the emotional body. And emotion is energy in motion. This is the movement. This is where many people are not resisting possibility itself. They're resisting the vulnerability that possibility requires to actually take the action on this movement, to feel what we feel, and to allow it to move through us. And then there's the nervous system, the gatekeeper to actually what's possible and the possibility. The nervous system determines what feels safe, what can be embodied, how much expansion the body can actually tolerate. The nervous system associates things with danger, but then it will unconsciously resist them. The nervous system will always prioritize safety over possibility. And so if we get to the nervous system and all of the other energy bodies are not in alignment and the nervous system doesn't believe it, it can't hold it. And then the nervous system itself. A person can consciously desire love, intimacy, purpose, visibility, and transformation. But if they can't embody it and they don't believe it's possible, then it still doesn't come forth. The physical body is the consciousness made visible. This is when the energy becomes action. Beliefs become behaviors, and emotion becomes chemistry, and patterns become reality. This is why the patterns are so important, because this is what we're actually going to the roots of, and each one of these layers to shift, to bring into reality. And they all need to be aligned in order for it to happen. The physical body stores trauma, adaptation, memory, and survival responses. And the body is not separate from the consciousness. It is the consciousness expressed physically. And so going to these roots recreates the physical reality and the actual experience. The relationships that we have, they expose the patterns. They expose everything that we heal. They expose our wounds. They expose our defenses. They expose our fears. They expose our attachment patterns, our capacity for love, and our level of embodiment. Relationships are where these patterns become visible, and healing becomes relational instead of theoretical. The relationships are where all the healing begins. So how do we move from the impossible to the possible and actually move through all of these energy bodies? The safety, this is the path. Safety, which creates the foundation. Regulation, which is the ability to remain connected during the intensity of life. And then we have to have the capacity, the ability to actually hold life in our bodies. And then there's structural integrity, the strength of the internal foundation. If there's no safety and there's no ability to remain connected and no capacity to hold, then there's no structural integrity to actually hold the foundation of what's happening. Coherence is when all of the layers stop fighting with each other and actually align. Integration is where the insight becomes lived reality. What we've learned through moving through each of the layers actually is the wisdom that was stored in our cells. Each experience is a gift, a lesson, a wisdom. And then embodiment, when wisdom becomes cellular. And devotion is stewardship in action, when we become whole and we accept our wholeness, good, bad, light, dark, whatever we consider it. But we accept our wholeness and go back to our roots. Safety is the body's first asking, can I exist safely? Can I feel safely? Can I be seen safely? Can I stay connected without losing myself? If we don't feel safe to be here now and be present, there's nowhere we can go. It all starts with safety. That is the first step and the foundation of any work that's being done, especially in the healing. Without safety, the body contracts, defenses activate, and that's when the fragmentation begins. We start leaving ourselves. We start leaving the relationship. We start leaving the experience. Regulation is the next step. It's not becoming calm forever. It's the flexibility of being able to remain connected during intensity, to feel the emotion without collapsing, to experience stress without losing yourself, and to remain present under pressure. The capacity is where we're able to do that. It's not the ability to hold, not just pain. It's to hold life, but be able to actually hold the joy, be with it, experience it, hold love, hold truth. Be willing to be visible. Be willing to receive abundance. Be open to intimacy and deeper levels of self. And deeper levels of responsibility. When we're fully present, it requires responsibility, both within ourselves and within our experience. And most people don't lack potential, they lack the capacity to sustain what they desire. That's where we come in with structural integrity, where without structure, expansion can become disabling, disability, and integrity allows transformation to become sustainable. Without integrity, there's nothing to hold the capacity. Integrity is the internal strength of the foundation. This includes boundaries, groundedness, discernment, consistency, honesty, and energetic containment. Without healthy boundaries, there's nothing that's sustainable. Once we have healthy boundaries and there's a container for the system, that's when coherence sinks in. We have the ability for spirit, mind, emotion, nervous system, and body to all align. They stop fighting each other. When the layers start communicating coherently, the fragmentation leaves, and that's when we're no longer divided internally and the healing begins. We're accepting our wholeness. All the bodies are clear and creating alignment between thoughts, feelings, actions, values, and embodiment. Our actions are actually in alignment with our words and our intentions. All the systems are working coherently. Integrating that is the next step, where this is where the transformation is visible. You can see it through healthier relationships, healthier choices, healthier boundaries, consistency, and presence. You're no longer saying, I had a powerful experience. This is where we now say, my life reflects what I've learned. This is where we're walking the walk. We're no longer telling the stories. We're actually integrating and practicing what we learn. And this is the part that can sometimes feel scary and like we're a teenager, because when we're integrating something new, kind of like what Taylor said earlier, we're always learning. And so the integration is putting these new skills, putting these new awarenesses into practice and allowing them to be in our life, where we don't need to tell stories about them anymore. We just show up and our being represents it. And the integration then leads to embodiment, the grounded present. This is when the wisdom becomes cellular. Everything that we just unlocked, moving through all of the different layers, getting to the roots, unlocks the memories, the stored information in our cells. And once we release that, that's the wisdom. That's our magic. Our history, our gifts, what's stored in our cells, that's your magic. That's your purpose, because every pattern that was toxic or did not suit your current life, you get to learn that pattern and you get to share that and express that. That is your personal magic. That is your personal medicine. And that is your gift to yourself and to this world, to be able to no longer stuck in that story, but instead be free. It's coherence lived daily. There's truth in action. Your nervous system is at peace. Alignment in the body. This is the impossible becomes inhabitable. There's no performance, no mask, no peak state. You just are. And it's beautiful. Embodied wholeness. This is where when you're embodied and totally at peace with yourself, your life, peace with the past, peace with the present, and peace with the unknown, devotion. Eventually the question becomes, what is this transformation in service to? Why did I just go all through all this work? Why am I here? What is my purpose? Embodiment is not for just self-improvement. It's for stewardship. It's for service. It's for integrity, love, conscious leadership, community. This is where healing becomes sacred. This is where we share our gifts. We share all that pain that has become wisdom and give all that pain purpose. It's your life. It's your magic. It's your mojo. This work is human. I'm not speaking as someone who's mastered being human. I'm not even close. I'm speaking as someone who's deeply committed to this work, honestly. This is a work is not about becoming superior. It's about becoming more truthful. The deeper I go into this work, the more truthful I become, because we see the layers. And each layer that I go to, it's a spiral. So each of the layers we go through and we go deeper and deeper and deeper until we get to the roots. And if we're not willing to do that, it doesn't make sense. And so this is a space that I hold and that I have been working through for the last 2 decades, from fragmented to coherence and from impossible to possible. I hold space for people to experience peace, wholeness, presence, coherence, and a deeper connection with themselves and others. And while this sounds easy, it's really not. It's not as simple as it seems to be fully present with self, to actually find inner peace, to find coherence between all the layers. It requires practice. It requires discipline. And it requires a lot more work than one would think. And I tend to attract people that are ready for that wholeness. And when I speak of wholeness, I'm speaking of being able to not judge those parts of us that are scary, or that make bad decisions, or that make mistakes, or that have done bad things. All of those things that we did don't define us. They're decisions that we made from a perspective that I truly believe in our hearts, that everyone that I know and have met, that we do the best that we can from the perspective we are, with the tools we have and the consciousness we have at that moment. And so our past selves that we sometimes look back on in shame or blame or want to punish, that's our gift. That experience was what taught us this. If we didn't have this experience, how would we have that wisdom? How would we have that knowledge? How would we have the ability and desire to change into something different, better, make new choices? Everything that we do is a choice. And so every experience that we have is an opportunity to stop fragmenting, that to look for embodied love, to find integrity within oneself and all the bodies. We have to go to the roots. And that's a scary place sometimes, especially when we have to go to the roots of each layer. For me, this work is deeply personal. I value depth over scale, quality over quantity. And I intentionally keep my spaces intimate because real transformation happens through trust, presence, truth, and genuine connection. While this level of honesty is not for everyone, those who are ready for it often discover a level of peace, connection, and transformation that they never thought was possible. We do it through one-on-one, couples, and intimate containers. Wholeness is not perfection. It's the courage to stop fragmenting ourselves. Each one of you is here today. Some of you whole, some of you fragmented. But you're here, choosing you. Choosing presence. Choosing your own power. This isn't an easy path. It's just a path that we all get to choose. Because even though it's not perfection, we're all perfectly perfect exactly where we are right now. Each one of you that's here right now and online, thank you, had the courage to show up today. And I don't mean show up here, I mean show up for yourself. Show up for life. And to be here now. And for that, I am eternally grateful. Thank you for letting me share what has taken me 2 decades to learn, and this is where I am now. And it seems like the deeper I go and the more I learn, the more interesting it becomes and amazing. So that is redefining what's possible and where we are now. Thank you all so much.